Hi, welcome to VNN's newest episode of our discussion series. And today, of course, Praveen Verma,
Hi.
my co-host, he is in a very cheerful mood because I think spring is just, I think, 4 days away. So
Spring
you
is
look, you
4
look
days
very.
away, but then spring is already in because the weather is nice, and I am not carrying my overcoat today. I'm
That's why
quite
this morning you were
comfortable.
all smiles and
Canada is in a good mood, or Ontario or Toronto is in
you're
a
in a
good
good
mood.
mood, yes. And now the snow is melting.
Yeah.
That's one good thing. Anyway, things are looking as bleak as ever in Ukraine and Europe, and Putin is pressing on with his bombing spree, bombing artillery, bombardment of Kyiv and the neighboring cities. Mariupol is almost gone, wrecked completely.
According to what you see on television,
That's
yes.
what the Western media says. We don't know because we don't get the other side now, so we don't know.
Yes.
Although I think on Indian channels there is some Russian analysts come and say, okay,
Yeah.
that Ukrainian soldiers are bombarding the Donetsk province.
Donetsk province,
So we
yes.
don't know what is happening there too. And about the casualty figures, no figures coming out.
No reliable figures coming out. We hear from both the sides, and then we have to sort of work out an average on
No, there
that.
are
But
no.
then any casualty is a bad thing
It's a
for
bad
the.
thing, yes.
Would be
But
the
although
bad
because the
thing.
Ukrainians say that three top commanders have already been killed in Russia, generals. So we don't know. We don't get to hear the other side.
We
Anyway, so
don't
we
get to hear the other side at all. And of course, there are casualties
There
on
will be
both
massive
sides, and any
casualties.
casualty is not a good thing. So let's hope that war ends quickly. We do have some encouraging news on part of the discussions between the two sides, and we understand that there is a 15-point
Proposal has
proposal
been
which
made,
is now
yes.
being discussed between the two sides, and both sides are a bit positive on the progress of the agreement.
Although Russia says that Ukraine is not, they are still sort of stalling the negotiations. I don't know. Somebody is forcing them, poking them from behind. Come on, stop, wait,
Well,
wait.
if we go into that, the Ukrainians have been sort of been poked by the NATO and the US and all sides to sort of be in the conflict, in the sense that
Yeah.
our perception, the Indian
Yeah, we don't
perception,
know, yeah.
the Indian perception is that much of this issue could be stopped if the
Could have been stopped
if the Western
diplomatically, yes.
diplomatically,
Correct.
yes. But then again, at this stage, this 15-point formula seems to be the only options going forward. But there are some tricky points in terms of it says about withdrawal of Russian troops. Now, to which point will they withdraw?
Yeah, but I think Putin does not want to leave those two republics.
Yeah, that's one. As long as those two provinces and Crimea are not into consideration, I think Russia would be agreeable to that.
Yeah, but Crimea, I think the Ukraine has said we don't want to discuss Crimea. Russia can keep it.
Yeah.
So these
But,
two
well,
these two other
then
rebel
again,
provinces.
The other issues are about Ukraine being sort of a NATO neutral.
That and demilitarization, which
Demilitarization means that
is,
it won't. They will have military, but they will not
not
allow
offensive.
posts,
Yeah.
foreign military posts to be established over here. And also, I think the Russians want the commitment by NATO to be constitutionally guaranteed. Something like that. These are just fine points.
Yeah.
But these points, I'm told, discussions are going on and are going fruitfully. The only thing is the whole noise about everything of the war going on should sort of come down for the both sides to discuss it a bit sensibly.
It will be a little difficult now because I mean, U.S. President Biden has called him a war criminal and thugs yesterday, calling him a thug. Now the problem is, will Putin be ready to come and talk to Biden again after all this, name calling?
You see, that is the whole question. Are you willing to sit down and discuss?
Yeah.
If you want to discuss, then all this shouting has to stop.
That's true.
Unless and until you stop the shouting, then you stop the hostilities, then only there'll be a sensible talk. And when there is a sensible talk already in progress and there are primary guidelines already established, it would be good statesmanship from both the sides to sort of calm down their tempers and come at a discussion table. The entire world is now suffering due to this war.
Right, in every sector, every sector.
Nobody wanted a war. Putin started this war, the blame will go on him.
Definitely.
History will always blame him. But then ultimately one will have to, the future will tell us as to what was the exact nature of the conflict at that time and to what extent Putin overstepped. The fact that Putin overstepped is there,
That's
but
known,
to
of
what
course,
extent
yeah.
it was entirely his fault, or was he coaxed into it, or he was pushed into a corner, that all remains irrelevant.
Or he just
But
went mad suddenly.
Putin should not have taken this
not
step.
have done
That is the conclusion which you will
There's
draw.
still a lot of pressure on India to condemn Russia. And yesterday, I think the
India
most
is under heavy pressure. Now the pressure is coming on Chinese also.
Yes.
The Western powers are trying to do that, but I don't know. You see, in international relations, our basic domestic interests are primary,
become primary.
and Russians have been our friends for a long time. Americans are a new friend. So we'll have to really judge. And the Indians are doing a very tightrope walking
It is
at this
tightrope
stage. Chinese are not doing. Chinese are in a much more comfortable position.
Yeah.
But then last 2 or 3 days we're hearing lots of news that Biden
Is going to talk to Xi
Going to
Jinping today,
to-
this morning.
Friday, yeah,
On
today.
Friday. And the problem is now they're saying India must not consider importing Russian oil. So that's another problem. Although Germany is continuing to do, Hungary is doing it, UK is doing it, and they have all UK has I think said we'll stop it in December 2022. Well,
reading the newspapers, I am told that there are so many loopholes in all these
That's the
sanctions
thing, yes.
that India can freely import
at discounted prices.
at discounted value.
And rupee-
ruble prices, so it's there.
That's true.
I'm sure if the war goes on, I hope it doesn't go on. The Europeans will also find a way to find their
Get to,
energy
yes.
requirements from one source or the other. The supply line cannot stop. It'll keep coming on despite of the
a lot of
sanctions.
flux now. I think it's a fluid situation. Things will change around in the world. I think because now Saudi Arabia has said they will deal with China in yuan, not in American dollars. So that's another. I don't know whether it's a blow to the US or
I don't
it's
know.
a boost
The
for
South Africans are also
doing the same thing. So we don't know.
So the scenario keeps on changing day
And
to day.
strangely, the Asian nations, Southeast Asian nations are all very quiet. They are
Quiet
not
about
condemning both sides. They are just lying low.
But whatever happens, you and I will have to pay the price in the end,
That's
because
true.
the
And
prices
people
are
are
already going up.
all over the world.
Gas prices are going up.
Food prices are
Once the
going up.
supply chain chokes up, things will get bad to worse.
Yeah.
And one was reading this news that half of the aeroplanes flying in Europe were Russian freight planes.
Right.
All those being grounded. Now there are no planes to take the freight around. With the no-fly zone, again, the flights have to go around. There are various complications over here. So we all pray that this 15-point formula goes forward, and sooner they arrive at an agreement, we'll see an end of the war. Because we don't see any military victory in sight on any side.
There cannot be any military victory in this war.
So once there is no military victory, the sooner we get into a diplomatic agreement, the better for the countries involved and the world concerned.
That's another one good news in this whole week of bad news is that Canada and India had long discussions about restarting the
Yes,
trade deal.
yes,
That's a
yes.
good thing. I think
Good
Minister
thing.
Mary
She
was
was
in
there
Delhi with Piyush Goyal.
And agreements were
that's a good sign.
signed, and let's hope things improve. We've been waiting for some measures like this so that things move, but because it has been there for a long time, and as a matter of fact, it went back
10 years,
after
10 years, yeah, almost
So
hanging.
With the two democracies, large, vibrant democracies, we think that we should be much closer than what we are at this moment, and the efforts which are going on are genuine at this stage, and let's hope that in near future
Absolutely.
we are
Now they
able
said a
to.
preliminary agreement will be signed definitely. So that's a very good sign. Now coming back, we'll go back to this. What's happening in India? The big controversy and big row over this movie Kashmir Files. It's a documentary type or a movie, but it's the box office is ringing with money. They have become very rich now.
Yeah, but the allegation against the movie makers is that they are dividing the country on religious basis. I don't know. I have not seen the movie.
Yeah,
I'll
I have not
definitely
seen
go
it
and
either.
see the movie. But Of course, there would be some dramatic license they would take. They would have taken and dramatized everything, but it is, I am told, on basis on facts and what actually happened to the Kashmiri
Apparently, there's
Pandits.
a lot of raw footage which shows violence and.
Yes, so that's one reason I don't want to go to cinema hall, because I don't want to sort of see the violence and cry over there, because there's a lot of emotions
there's a
also.
lot of emotions
also.
involved, yes, that's it,
And even today, I'm quite surprised that how could this happen, and how, mind you, you and I were not very much aware of what really happened. And
because of course, there was no social media at that time, and there was no internet. I mean, that could be one of the reasons. But after that, also, everything was quiet.
And it's only recently, maybe after the BJP government came in, that the Kashmiri Pandits sort of got the strength and the resources to vent up their view. And once they've come forward, we see there was lots of suffering. And now my friends who were quite quiet about all these things, now they are talking that that's my grandmother used to tell the story and my grandfather was beaten up.
Why hasn't the government done anything so far? Even the BJP government, they were talking about, but nothing has been done, is it? They're still in the refugee camps. Nobody has returned to this.
Still surprises. Of course, so much of water has flown under the bridge that getting them back will also take time. Because there's another issue in Pakistan, in Kashmir again, of the return. Once these people start returning, there'll be another agitation as to
and all their properties have been encroached upon and taken away. So that's also another thing.
So all those things have to be done. So there's a lot of unwinding to be done, and the more ancient it becomes, it's more difficult to.
I think we should have a discussion one of these days about this whole the Kashmir imbroglio and what is it? I mean,
we could get somebody from the
Kashmiri community
over here and talk to them as to what happened. We know, but why was this silence for such a long time? We are all in support. We know what happens, and how can we sort of tackle it without, as they say, dividing the community in India, because there is much of anger amongst the Muslim community that they are being tarnished.
That's true.
Whereas it is not of the Muslim community, but it's about the terrorists who had been
coming from Pakistan,
who had come
supported by external forces.
And they sort of announced and the atrocities which they said, and they gave samples. People just ran away from there.
Yeah, because the Kashmiri Muslims says they have not attacked, they have not done anything. It's the jihadis who are locally bred or coming from outside. We don't know. So we'll have to see what happens with that.
Some clarity has to evolve, and I'm sure after Kashmir Files there would be many researchers who will do some work and come with some concrete facts. I mean, these are stories given by various people. The film also is sort of 4 different strands telling about their own stories. Which are bizarre and very, one would sort of.
But I think, of course, Vivek Agnihotri, the filmmaker, has been sort of a maverick. I mean, he is not part of the Bollywood system. He made that film Kashmir Files, Lal Bahadur Shastri's. And before that, I think he made some 2 erotic thrillers. I think that's what that's what to say. He's not considered as very serious filmmaker, but now this year I think hit the target.
He has come into the forefront, and he has very smartly taken this opportunity also. And I'm sure he's there to stay now.
Anupam Kher's backing also helped a lot.
Anupam Kher's backing.
He's an established.
And it's a genuine story. I would say that he has done a good job in bringing this issue to the forefront, despite of the fact that Muslim community is agitated. But we all, at least the thinking people, realize that it was not the community, but it was basically the terrorists and the infiltrators from the other side who maybe the local government, I don't know, might be complicit with it.
The Congress is upset anyway. And I think they'll be upset more because he has already announced that he's planning to do something on the Delhi riots, the Delhi riot file or something.
Okay.
So that would really be
Congress might be agitated. How many the G23 and Indira and Sonia Gandhi, let this sort it out and let Congress come back on its feet first. Otherwise,
Which I
as
doubt,
it is,
I
they
doubt.
are
It's very
they
difficult.
are sort of split and
On the
totally
carpet.
disorganized.
They are
Yes.
on the carpet,
I won't say that.
It's difficult for them to revive. I mean, it's.
You don't know.
We
You
don't know.
don't
Of
know.
course, things
Politics
change.
is the point is, uh, if we have a good leadership,
Yeah.
Congress has its footprint all over the country.
Yes.
And people like you and I also, who have grown up as a Congressee,
Yeah.
do have some sympathy as to what's happened to this great party. So I'm sure there'll be some people who will come and string around it, and if there's good work
I
shown,
remember.
because anyway, all their votes have been taken away by AAP and all these
And the other
parties,
regional parties, yeah.
which these parties, I don't know what their future is. So the moment they start integrating, it'll all come back.
I don't know. We'll have to see. But
We'll have to.
but the B-
I'm not a politician. I'm
BJP
not a political projector now. I do not sort of have any claims of doing any
what is the
politics.
BJP spokesperson was saying on the Indian television, saying we want Rahul Gandhi to be continuous as president, make him the chief of the Congress party because he is our star campaigner. It is absurd. I mean,
All points to you on that.
but this, of course, Muslims feeling persecuted. Apparently, there's now this hijab issue also of Karnataka. That also is going to be a big factor again.
I don't think it will be a big factor because it started during the election times.
Yeah, that's true.
And all these girl students who never wore hijab
In December,
before,
they started wearing it.
they
yeah.
started suddenly wearing
6
hijab,
students.
and then the reaction
blew
from
up
the
all
other
over.
sides came in, and then the schools got closed, and people went to court, and the court has given a decision.
And now they're going to Supreme Court now.
I understand the Karnataka Supreme Court has given quite a reasonable decision.
Yeah.
Of course, they will go to the Supreme Court. There is no option. But at least the ground rules have been laid, and they have made it very clear that hijab does not constitute
a part
the
of,
essential part of Islamic rituals. Number one.
But now US has also waded into a controversy. US House of Foreign Affairs said, oh, why is India doing this?
You see, US secularism or Canadian secularism is different than
Yeah.
Indian secularism. Indian secularism
It's innate. It's inborn within Indians.
I'll tell you, the Article 25, I think, it gives freedom of all religious
propagation
practices,
practice.
but it lays down one condition, that essential practices. This was discussed during the Constituent Assembly's
Okay.
discussions also, and it was agreed that India is such a diverse country and there are so many religions and so many practices that if you let everybody practice all their religious, it will be very difficult for any government to function. Therefore, for all its wisdom, the constitution was not a secular constitution at that time. It was the freedom of following your religion was enshrined in one of those articles, Article 25.
Right.
Secularism came in emergency,
In
and
Indira
it was
Gandhi used it,
incorporated
right.
later on in the constitutions. Our founding fathers did not make our constitution as a secular. They said that
Although the-
people can follow all their secular traditions within the reasonable limit, and which is as per the essential part.
So India's ethos is secular. There was no need for for that word to be inserted.
Talking in BJP's term, the Hindu ethos is also secular.
Yeah, it's secular.
I've studied in a Christian school, and
Same with me, yeah.
half of my life I've lived in Islamic countries, and I can easily go into a mosque and do my prayer over there. There's no qualms about that.
Yeah.
So, having said that, India is a different secularism than these countries.
Western countries, yeah.
When India became secular, the state became secular. Okay? But people were secular right from the very beginning, even before the amendment came in. And it said that it has this essential practices. So what the court has said that hijab is not an essential practice. One of the judges was a Muslim, and she would have also been a part of the justice. But now many of the Muslim clerics and knowledgeable people will go to the Supreme Court arguing that yes, it
But
is.
they feel, I think,
But then
culturally, they feel threatened. I think that's not the religious threat; it's a cultural threat. Like
that threat is there because the BJP is there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is existing
It's a different
scenario.
topic of discussion. We'll have to discuss
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
That's a much deeper thing.
Much
than what we
deeper
think.
discussions which can go on, which is the present problem in the Indian political scene, that there is an alienation of the minorities, alienation of the Muslims, alienation of the
Yesterday there was, I
Dalits.
think, one more call saying that the classification of minorities should be changed. That it should be only 8. If it's 8% of the population, they'll be minorities. Well, the Muslim community is 120 million strong, which is not a. It's not a minority.
It's not a minority.
It's a second largest majority. Right?
Whatever numbers you put in, you can always put a number, but minority is a minority, and you cannot deny that Muslim, even if you are in a government, if you are 45%, you are in a minority. A 45%.
That should be removed then. There should be a numbers fixed. Maybe so many million people.
Who decides the numbers?
That's the constitution.
Who decides the numbers?
Government has to decide that. Somebody, parliament has to decide it.
Yeah. So,
so if it crosses the threshold of some percentage, they are no more a minority, because then they become a large minority.
then you'll come into the question of a large minority, a small minority, a minor minority.
No, I mean, for instance, the Sikhs or the Christians, they are more comprising 2 or 3% of the population. They are the real minority. The Jains, the Jews, the Parsis, these are the minorities communities, isn't it? I mean, Muslims, 120 million people, they are not a...
17%.
That's not a minority. We can't call it a minority. And then we say that Hinduism also, so many different sects and different segments. They can all be sort of different.
There can be a whole discussion on that, but
we don't know how do you solve this?
I would say that if 83% are Hindus and 17% Muslims, another 5% distributed amongst other 17% also would be technically a minority.
Much more, I think, than that.
I think 17%. Whatever, 18%.
Then I think then the problem comes whether they should do it by state. Say Kashmir has more Muslims, then the Hindus are in a minority, or the northeastern states, or in Kerala where they're almost equal. Then it can go down to the district level also. In one district there are more Muslims, so they are in a majority there.
Let the constitution be where it is, because doing all these things nowadays in these times, there are too many scientific methods, and you can argue on all the sides.
Or make it a uniform civil code and the problem end the problem.
Yeah.
That could be one alternative. Maybe there could be some violence at those times, but I think over the long run, maybe
it'll come.
That could be the.
I don't know.
Every US and Canada, Western countries have this uniform code.
I would agree with you that we should also have a uniform civil code, but we have to live with the historicity of everything, and how our Indian politics evolved and how things are at the moment, and how easily you can convert it. Because to do a uniform civil code, you need a major amendment in the constitution and major amendments. How you get about it, it all depends upon how much strength the government has.
We should have a discussion on this and on Kashmir. And next week we will do something on the Kashmir problem. What the genesis and something like that, right?
We can talk about that. Yes.
Anyway, I think thank you for watching VNN, our discussion series with Ambassador Praveen Verma, and we'll meet again next week. Yep, thank you.
Thank you very much.